now that we've seen Sleepy Hollow, some of us were at San Diego Comic-Con, some of us may not have seen the pilot there, but how do you maintain, what are some of the things that you've been hearing from Fox as the series has gone on in terms of any notes for it? Because it's really one of the series Netflix shows on TV, and I really admire you for pulling that off without being gratuitous. So what are some of the notes that you've been hearing from Fox in terms of response from fans and things that you have coming up?
I mean, response, just to talk about, since you're even talking about the horror aspect of it, to maintain and keep that alive, it is something that people are really responding to, that they like. It's a kind of balance of a horror and a scare that ends in a laugh. If that makes sense. That we're trying to maintain that to where it's scary but it's fun, and so that's one of the things that we talked about. Is want to make sure that stays alive. And I don't know. That's why.
I think, it's interesting. Fox has been truly great partners with us, and I'm not just saying that they've been great partners because, we had this crazy stew of a show. It was like apocalypse mythology, demons, witches, the Revolutionary War, two time periods, time travel, and most people be like, "Are you out of your mind?" No, but they were like, "Okay, you know what? You seem to have a real point of view on it, and we're going to trust you, and we're going to go there." And so they've only really kind of come in and said. And dinged us when something wasn't clear, but they've never dinged us for, oh, you're going too far and you can't do this. If anything, they've actually encouraged us to push even further. In fact, when we were developing the script, Kevin Riley kept saying like more, and it inspired us because we wanted to give them more. And a lot of the times I think you'd be limited and you'd be told no, you can only do this one thing or pick one. But it wasn't that, and I think as a result. The audience gets to have the experience every week of being able to focus on one emotional story, but knowing that there's the promise of so much more out there, and we got a lot of story left to tell.
Do you guys have specifics on how far you're going to take some of the occult things? Like, you already know in University Vampires there's werewolf and not underworld, but
we're going to do an underworld crossover.
I think inevitably with every series like this, are we doing our werewolf? Are we doing our werewolf now? Should we wait till season? No, but it is that we're following more along the lines of in terms of like creatures and mythologies that write a bit more parallel with Revelations, and so we're trying to stay a bit more within that universe. But it was something that we really wanted to be able to, we talk about Sleepy Hollow being it's like Halloween every week, in the sense that we really are promising that kind of escapism, and we wanted to bring in a lot of characters that we know, whether it's Sandman or a Scarecrow or these characters that we all know, but make sure that they're intertwined within our story. It's not just Creature of the Week, but if we do have a Sandman, if we do have a Scarecrow, if we do have a witch, it's all tying into personally what's going on with Abby McCrane, and so that's been fun. But it's to take those elements to pay them off, because it's what I want to see if I saw a show that was presenting like we are, but to make sure it's not random.
In the original,
I think it's kind of interesting, Kismet, that your panel today is the same day as the X-Files panel, which I feel like paved the way in a lot of ways for shows like yours, especially on your network. So I'm wondering if you guys are fans of that show or any other genre shows that you feel like broke ground in terms of prime time.
I mean, I would say huge fans of that show for sure. It did break ground. It was such a great tone too that I think you really took it serious enough, but you had fun with those characters. I actually love that show.
That show is sort of the Big Bang in many ways of these kinds of shows, and it happened to also have probably the greatest, if not one of the greatest, writing staffs ever assembled. All of them have gone on to do these incredible shows in their own right. But I think what X-Files did so brilliantly was it created an overarching mythology that allowed you to really go long term with the show, but it gave you two heroes to root in who were kind of, at least emotionally, on opposite sides of the fence, but always pointing toward the same thing. And that dynamic was so captivating. You can't, that's lightning in a bottle. To get those two actors in that part at that moment was such an extraordinary thing. And so what was always cool too about X-Files as a template was it wasn't always Monster of the Week. You know, every 4 or 5 episodes they'd bring in a monster, and the monster was somehow like an amazing case or you know, or a reflection of something the characters were going through. And I think that if we could be compared to the X-Files, you know, we live in their shadow and are humbled by it, and you know, could only aspire to be as long term and as great as that show.
In the original Washington Irving tale, Ichabod's a little bit of a coward. I'm wondering how you decide to go about in redoing him. And then also, considering that Abby is so fearful of acknowledging what happened to her, and then we do have this contemporary Ichabod who is a school teacher, did you take parts of old school Washington Irving Ichabod and split him up amongst the two witnesses?
Yes, because our as we go further on and find that what our Ichabod Crane is really attached to, and what his real mission is back during the war, and also it was just something that if you're going to do something and put a twist on it to represent it, you've got to do something different. And the kind of fearful, timid Ichabod had been portrayed, I think, very well from Johnny Depp to the Disney film, and it was wanting to present something very different. And there's another side of our Ichabod that plays into him being a little bit tougher, and we see that as actually kind of midway towards the end of this season, what his true mission is, and so the professor side of him, that's something that is also tied in, but just with a different twist. But it was really, honestly, it was to do something of, okay, that's how he's always been portrayed, why do it again? Right. You know, and let's try something new.
Who I call Abby's demon, or the demon in the mirror, that we see, like, you know, out of focus brilliantly done, is we're going to get more on who he is, what he is actually.
For sure, absolutely. Well, in the third episode, The Lesser Key of Solomon, they find out his name, and his name is Moloch, and they realize, you know, who Moloch was, and it's their first sort of clue toward that. But 100% yes, you know, there's a lot of story to tell there. Abby blacked out for 4 days. What happened in that period of time? Who was he? What was he doing in the forest? Those are all really big questions that we're going to answer over the course of the season.
And because I've done a poll, and when I've watched the show with like my family and nieces and nephews, around like the 14, 15, 16-year-old, I ask them at the end, the most important thing is, okay, now that you've seen it, what do you want to see next? And so many of them say, who is that? Who is that blurry man? Yeah. Who is that? What is that blurry thing?
For a long time we called him blurry man, and people call him fuzzy guy.
Yeah, blurry man. But who is that demon in the mirror? And are we going to see more of it?
Sorry, I have 2 questions. When you directed the pilot, do you have any plans to direct in the future?
I do, yeah. Not sure which one, but I love it, and I love the world, so absolutely.
And also, so you guys have been picked up already, and that's really exciting. Now we know that there's possibly 7 years of tribulation. Does that mean that there's potentially 7 years of material that you already have?
Never thought about that. We're going to think about that.
Is that going to affect the story? Knowing that you already have a second season, is that going to affect the storytelling for the rest of this first season, or are you just kind of like, no, yeah, we've got season 2?
No, it doesn't. It actually it makes us just sort of relax, not relax, but that we know now that when we take the first season to where we want to, we will be able to pay off everything, rather than the stress of, is it going to happen or not? So it really just allows us to actually see things through and know that we can.
Do you have a fear of it being, like, airing these 13 episodes and then going away until next fall? Like, do you have any sort of apprehension about that, of what may happen with the fan base, with it being away for so long, or?
I think we should put out like a Sleepy Hollow summer camp series.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that idea. Or like Muppet Babies. It could be like
just to keep it going in between.
You know, obviously we want people to stay tethered to the show, but I think we really believe that the way to do that is to do a show of quality. And the cable model now is starting to extend into the network world in such a wonderful way, because what it does is it really forces you to kitchen sink every episode. Every episode could be the finale. There are none of those when you have a 22 episode. There's always 1 or 2 ultimately transitional episodes. And we can't afford any of those when you're doing 12 episodes. And so I think that if you leave audiences at the end of a season going, oh my God, I have to come back, it's going to be because they were satisfied by those 12. So our hope is that, you know, we will accomplish that goal and people will want to come back to see where we're going.
Why is this a big bat? Oh, go on.
I was going to say, looking at the main characters, somebody has got to be not what they see. We were talking to Tom about this.
Yeah.
And so who is that person?
Oh, come on.
Some ideas, you know.
I would
and is
say,
there only one?
To answer your question, yes. Not everybody is who they seem. It's definitely something that we like devilishly enjoy creating and having you really like somebody, and then put some twists on it.
I want to know what's going on with Katrina, man. With her. Is she good? Is she bad? I don't know.
Yeah, totally bad.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.